another episode of Crime and Coffee with me. I'm Mike.
And I'm Allison.
And that's Allison. Yeah, so we just got done watching a little Bill O'Reilly special. If you've never seen it, you got to take a look on YouTube. It's back when he was on Inside Edition, and he got a little pissed off that the teleprompters didn't say what he was expecting. So he went off and he's like, fuck it, we'll do it live.
I had never seen it before or heard of it, and it was basically an adult grown man having a full-blown tantrum.
And then Stewie from Family Guy, they remade it on the Family Guy cartoon. So I showed that too, and that was pretty funny. It was pretty much the exact same thing, just hilarious because it was a cartoon. You wouldn't think it was real.
Is that how it is to work with me here on the podcast?
Yeah, I'm kind of on eggshells all the time. Just like something.
Where the fuck is my coffee? Fuck it, give me my coffee.
Yes, that's what I'm expecting half the time. So
it's not hot enough. What the fuck?
Well, a lot of people don't know. There's a little behind the scenes of this podcast.
Oh, here we go with the lies.
I have to edit a good 45 minutes of Allison saying dumb shit.
At least.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to come out of these lips.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but my coffee is amazing, and you made it for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, your coffee looks extra good this morning.
So thank you.
Yeah, and then I'm drinking Major Dickinson's blend.
You're a Major Dickinson.
From Pete's. It's a really good coffee. I love this dark roast. So
you like a punch you in the face type of
like a
roast.
chewy coffee where it's so thick you can chew it.
Yeah, it's like breakfast and coffee in one.
Yeah, exactly. Also got a song in my head today. I'm begging you.
Oh, that means I'm going to hear that no less than 750,000 times.
Yeah.
No joke. When Mike gets a song stuck in his head, it's every 30 to 45 seconds he sings it.
Yeah. It's currently made by Mainskin, I believe it is. It's like Maneskin. Beggin. Beggin. And I love it. Love the little riff. And I found out that it's actually like a remake. Like it's been remade several times, with the first most popular time being by the Four Seasons in like the 1950s. So if you enjoyed me singing it for that brief clip, then go ahead and look it up. And then you can get a little earworm, as I call it.
Yeah, you easily get earworms.
Yeah, I do. I'm like well known in the family for it.
It could even be like somebody's like ringtone or text tone, and you'll just whistle that over and over like through the whole day.
I'm
and
a big whistler.
To the point that I'm like going out of my mind.
I make it a point sometimes. I find it kind of annoying when people have the ringers really high. So just my passive-aggressive way of going about it is just whistling their ringer. So if I'm at a store and somebody has a call and whatever, I'm just like...
Well, do you ever notice, too, some people's phones are ringing and they're not, like, making any move to pick it up?
Yes, that bugs the shit out of me.
And you're in a place where you really should pick it up quickly, like a restaurant or something like that?
Yeah, just generally anywhere in public. Like, nobody wants to be listening to your really loud ringing.
Yeah, and I don't have a ringtone because I wear an Apple Watch, so it just buzzes on my wrist.
Ooh, fancy.
Well, you have a Fitbit, so you don't need a ringer either.
Yeah.
You lick.
I wouldn't say this works half the time, so.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, I usually miss calls. So at least I have it on. If I really need to get a call, I make sure it's on off of Do Not Disturb. But
so what else is going on?
I don't know. I got my Bears have their starting rookie QB this week, Justin Fields, starting for the first time. I'm super jacked about that.
We're having some peeps over because of Cameron's birthday. Our son turned 13 on Friday.
That too. My son turned 13.
Yeah. So we've got some food cooking. I was cooking all day yesterday, getting things ready. I like to do all make ahead stuff when I'm hosting a party so that I could just kick my feet up and relax.
Yeah, right. You don't it's not allowed to relax in this house until it goes dark.
On football Sundays, we relax.
That's true. Well, I try to relax. You're usually going, like football in the East Coast here in Florida starts at 1 p.m. And you are usually starting to relax at like 1:45, 2-ish area?
Usually around 1:30.
Yeah.
Well, I have to get all my stuff ready for the week because, with work, you want to have everything set.
Yeah. For me, I'm like, okay, it's 1. I got to sit down. So.
And I'm not getting up for the rest of the day. I hope you know that.
What was that fight we had? I was like, I just asked like one little thing. This is the only thing I asked for in my life. If I could watch NFL football.
For 16 weeks, I want to sit on the couch and not be bothered.
You're like, 16 weeks is something you're asking for. It's a lot.
I'm like,
it is a lot.
It's not 16.
Just check me out of the equation for 16 weeks from noon to 10 p.m.
Yeah, but your initial thing was it's almost like all 16 weeks I'm checked out, but I'm not. It's like a couple hours. No big deal.
Are you kidding me? You watch the 1 o'clock games, the 4 o'clock games, and the night games.
Well, the exciting thing about football in the morning, they say, hey, welcome to 7 hours of commercial-free football on the Red Zone.
Well, I'm sorry. You have a wife and kids and a home. You can't check out.
Are you sorry, though?
No.
Yeah.
I'm not at all.
I don't know why people say that.
I don't know why I said that.
No, a lot of people do. It's okay. It's okay.
The other thing I hate it when people say is, I hate to be rude, but it's like, fuck off. Before you start your sentence, fuck off.
Or when they're rude and they're like, well, I'm just being honest. It's like, yeah, there's honesty and then there's also tact, and you're lacking tact. So maybe sprinkle a little tact in there, sprinkle a little sugar.
And then we'll be good.
Yeah, you got your honesty, keep that, but also add tact and respectfulness. And I think you'll just stir that in your stew, and then we'll be good.
And then they feel like they're proud of themselves for being, quote unquote, honest.
Right.
It's like, no, you're just an asshole.
It's an excuse to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Don't be an asshole, folks. It's real easy.
That's the takeaway for the day. Just don't be an asshole.
Yeah, you got Crime and Coffee telling you how to do it.
And that's my motto as a dietitian, too. Just don't eat like an asshole, and we'll all be good.
The patients love it.
Yeah, I walk in the room, I'm like, cut the shit out. Don't eat like an asshole.
Right. And then like, well, I snuck a little Kit Kat. And they're like, I don't give a shit. It's your life,
That
not
Kit
mine.
Kat's not bothering me, son.
Yeah.
Actually, I really don't do much diet counseling.
No, you don't. You're more of a formula type of chick.
Well, critical care and then more malnutrition. So it's like, please eat.
Eat whatever you want.
Yes.
Mashed potatoes with sugar on top. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll leave the outpatient counseling to the outpatient dietitians.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. And they can tell the patients not to eat like assholes.
Let the specialists specialize. They're good at that. So, do you want to get into my my crime here?
Yes. I know nothing about it, so we'll see. That's what we're basically going to do. Just kind of keep it to ourselves and just hear it for the first time.
Yeah, and go back and forth over who's taking a crime here. So my guy is a very famous, infamous murder. And if you've listened to any other podcasts, there's a decent chance you probably come across him at some point because it's a very interesting and horrific story. But his name's Ed Gein.
Oh, yes. I know Ed very well.
Yeah.
Ed and his mommy.
Yeah.
They're good buds.
Yeah. So I thought this was interesting. So me not being being into tons of crime podcasts until recently is this is brand new to me. So I thought you can add any kind of flavor to it as we go along here.
Yeah, it's definitely, if you haven't heard it, it's one that will stick with you for sure.
And I was also looking into another one, which I didn't want to look into because I said you look into this other one and you won't be able to sleep for like days. And I'll bring that up to you separately. But
it's interesting because I like to keep a few stories in the mix so that I'm prepared and ahead. And I've had this one in particular in the mix for a few weeks now, and I just I can't bring myself to present it yet. I have to be like,
bad, or you're just
it's such a bad thing, and it's just so messed up. Yeah. That it's like you just don't want to tell it. You don't want to put it out there, but it's there. It happened,
Yeah.
So it's just some of these horrific things are just very hard to tell.
Well, I have a feeling if your brain's telling you don't do it, then don't do it.
Yeah, but it happened, and that's kind of what we're doing here.
Okay, you're right.
We're telling horrible stories, regardless of the story. People are losing their lives. Family members are losing their loved ones. So, regardless of how it happens, it's got to be told.
Yeah, you're right. I'll let you tell those stories then.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this one's pretty bad too. It's really messed up.
It is. So this one's interesting because Ed Gein, he was the kind of the starting point of a lot of different murders and horror films now. So like Psycho was kind of influenced by it. Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs was influenced by this guy, and countless others. I read something about Leatherface. I've never seen Leatherface, but and you'll know why very, very soon here. But he was known as the Butcher of Plainfield, Wisconsin.
Yep, he was from the Midwest.
Mm-hmm. And he was born August 27th, 1906. So he had like a lot of these stories, a challenging upbringing. His dad was an alcoholic, physically abusive. But the thing is, he wasn't, you picture that and you picture somebody coming home from work, especially the 1900s, you're like, go get me my dinner and stuff like that. But he was kind of controlled by his wife.
The alcoholic father?
Yes. So They originally lived in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and they decided to move to Plainfield, Wisconsin. So his mom, the one that was controlling, her name was Augusta. Very big Christian lady. Like everything else is the devil outside of your family. It's kind of like, just she read Bible verses all the time and thought that, basically they wanted to move from La Crosse, Wisconsin to Plainfield because she didn't like the glitz and glamour of the big city.
Which La Crosse is a small place.
Right.
I've never been there. My cousin Kristen is from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, though that's not the big glitz and glam of the city.
Yeah. So she didn't say glitz and glamour, but it was basically saying that the big city was the devil, and it was bad for them, a bad influence, and she didn't want her kids being, subject to big city and all those bad influences. And
got it. So she wanted to really keep it at home, keep it in check, and keep the outside world out.
Right. Yep. So, and just to kind of give an example of that, so Ed and he had a brother too, Henry, I think his name was, but I'll talk about him in a little bit here. But so Ed, his teachers and classmates at his elementary school decided he was shy. With like a lot of these guys we talk about, had some strange mannerisms, like he would burst out in laughter and just about his internal dialogue he's having to himself. So, just kind of sitting there and
That's never creepy to be sitting next to a person in class quietly and they start laughing.
Right.
I'm surprised the mom actually let them go to school, since she wanted to control the situation so much.
Right.
I'm surprised she didn't homeschool them.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
I guess she had other things going on.
I don't know.
Studying the Bible and controlling the father, I guess. The school blamed the mother, who punished him whenever he tried to make friends. So, like, there would be times where he would bring friends home from school every once in a while. Not a ton of times, but every once in a while. And she'd find something wrong with them. Be like, no, this person is channeling the devil here. We can't have this in our house, and this is why. And then she would push them away instantly. So she basically taught him, listen to me, listen to what I say. I know the way. And he kind of looked at her as like a goddess almost.
Which is interesting because you would think it would be the opposite and he'd want to rebel, especially because, you're out in the class all day. You would think he'd resent her for not allowing him to have any friends. It's like, here, be with these people, but don't be friends with them.
Yep. So she'd read from the Bible, like I said, preach that the world was an evil place and that all women were whores.
Oh.
Outside of their family, obviously.
Which is interesting because she's a woman.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm sure like that there's probably many, many whores out there. So you want to, like, most of the women are whores. Just assume so. And that's safe in doing so. Whereas that might be a very good thing for some other people.
Side note, I was kind of called a whore by your mom when we were teenagers.
Similar to Ed Gein's mother.
It was prom weekend, and we were in a group, and for your prom, we all spent the night at your house in the basement. And again, there was probably like 8 of us.
Tons of sex going on.
It wasn't anything like that. It was very innocent. And me and my best friend, Amanda, were coming up the stairs from the basement. All the guys had already gone upstairs. And we heard Mike's mom say, "I am not running a whorehouse here." And I turned to Amanda and I was like, I guess we're the whores in the house.
Yeah, makes us the whores. Yeah, I probably should have done a better job asking my mom for everybody. Maybe I didn't ask her if everybody could sleep over.
One would have assumed you would have.
Well,
because for my prom, we all stayed the night at my house, and my parents knew that was happening.
Yeah, I didn't ask for permission usually.
That was before I was able to fully control you.
Right.
In our marriage.
Similar to Augusta over here.
Very much like Augusta.
Yep. So, just basically drinking and other immoral, like anything outside the house was an immoral act.
But her husband was an alcoholic.
Yes. Right. She probably hated him.
So they had to have alcohol in the house.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Interesting how that works.
Yep. I always picture her kind of like Waterboy, the Adam Sandler's mom in Waterboy. She's like, foosball's the devil.
Oh, yeah.
I like everything's the devil. Mm-hmm. Except not as fun and exciting as that. So she didn't allow a social life, and she would confine Ed and his brother Henry, that was his brother's name,
right?
Henry, to a farm. They had a big farm. They actually, Ed was a pretty good farmer. He was a hard worker, always dedicated to what needed to be done. He became like a handyman of sorts all through the town. And it's such a small town, Plainfield. I think it's like under 1,000 people. Everybody kind of knew each other, and he was a hard worker and never really gave anybody a lot of trouble. He ended up dropping out of school around 12 or 13 years old to work on the family farm, and then in April 1st, 1940, his dad died of a heart attack. So this is, he's in his 30s at this point.
Okay.
So pretty much.
Still living at home, though?
Yep. Lived at home his whole life.
Okay.
This one home. So, yeah, I mean, not a whole lot of crazy stuff happening. I watched a couple interviews of what kind of guy he was, and they were like, oh, he's quiet, but nice enough, where he'd come around, and this one guy's like, yeah, he would ask about your day all the time, know enough to just be like, hey, how's it going? How are this and that? Okay, well, see you later. And they're like, yeah, weird guy, but nice.
Able to at least have conversation.
Exactly, yeah. Because, I was looking on Reddit, and some people were saying they almost feel bad for him because he was probably like autistic or something like that. And obviously with such a sheltered life, his mom controlling him, just saying, you can't talk to anybody, and then being out of school at 12 or 13 and, already being under the thumb of this lady, probably very developmentally disabled and, other things of that nature.
All of his other things like his social life and stuff like that, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
So your only life is just living in this farmhouse.
Right.
And then especially once he dropped out of school, the rest of the social part was gone, and then he's only with his mom.
Yep.
I wonder what his brother's situation was in the house.
So his brother seemed a little bit more outspoken. Just from the small amounts I could read about him. So there were points where he actively spoke out against the mom to Ed and to the mom, saying, she's a little nutty, a little batty, a little controlling. I don't like this whole thing. Ed never would, because he
maybe Henry recognized it and Ed just thought it was normal.
Right. Yeah. He was. Yeah. And basically what they said is he was kind of a 12 or 13-year-old living in an adult's body. So didn't have a lot of like social cues. Even though he was nice enough to know to, ask about people's lives and stuff, but just general things like kind of didn't get him. It's the things that you take for granted in everyday life, just didn't come to him easily. But yeah, there were a couple times where his brother did speak out against his mom, and he didn't like that. So yeah. So anyways, him and his brother are still working on the farm. It's 1944, and this is the first incident that kind of set things rolling here. So it's 1944. Him and his brother were burning away some marsh, some grasslands, as people do on the farms, just like a controlled burn. Make sure things are set. I'm not a farmer. I don't know. Why you burn these things? Maybe make room for next year's crop.
Yeah, the fresh, healthier stuff to come through.
Yeah.
The only reason why I know that is because I watched The Pioneer Woman, and she lives on Drummond Ranch. So
of course, on her hundreds and thousands of acres.
Yes.
Well, so they're burning some marsh, and I guess it was spreading quicker than they thought they could. They were planning on it spreading. So they ended up calling the fire department to take care of the fire. Fire department came in, sprayed everything down. After the firefighters left, they'd come and gone. There was one website that said Ed reported his brother as missing, but then another video I watched said Ed took them. So maybe this is what happened: is that Ed reported his brother missing, and then the authorities came back later. So Ed took them directly to his brother's dead body, which was face down. And looks like he died from asphyxiation.
Okay, related to this fire?
So that's part of it. So obviously they thought it was related to the fire somehow, because this gigantic fire happens, and then the brother
now he's
ends up
asphyxiated.
Dead. Right. But I guess they say that the police realized that Henry had been dead before the fire got out of hand, and that he had some weird bruises on his head.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
And Henry, I assume at this point, is probably in his 30s as well.
Yep.
So young guy. Mm-hmm. Of course, it was back then where the average life was probably not super old, but still.
Right.
An otherwise healthy 30-year-old.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
are you dead with bruises on your body?
Right. So the cops suspected that Ed killed his brother, but there wasn't any kind of evidence or anything. So they were just forced to kind of accept the death as an accident.
And maybe the fact that he just led them to his body, that they're like, well, certainly he didn't do it, and then bring us here.
Yeah. So also a medical examiner looked at it and said Henry died of a heart attack fighting the fire.
Interesting.
So that was kind of the open book, shut and closed, and that's the end of it there. They didn't have a lot of the forensics and stuff like that they have today.
But did they do an autopsy and see that his heart suffered an attack?
I don't know that.
Interesting.
So,
okay. I was just like, it's a heart attack. Okay,
right.
Close the book.
Yeah, we're good. Well, it's a small town Plainfield. They all know each other. Nobody ever suspects.
Ed wouldn't kill Henry.
Right. According to one website, later investigators would claim that there was no doubt that Ed had been the murderer.
Yeah.
So, if there was no doubt, then a lot of stories change over time. So they're looking back and they hear all these things, like, oh yeah, he was definitely
You put the pieces together afterwards,
right? So some people have this theory that he killed Henry because Henry suggested, I mentioned that the mother was a little too overwhelming. So Ed didn't like that, and he viewed his mother as this perfect goddess, and maybe he just decided, hey, you know what? He doesn't see her as she is, and I need to get rid of her.
Yeah,
So,
he didn't appreciate his brother speaking poorly of his mother.
Yep. So also it was, finally that Ed had his mother to himself. Somehow.
Dad's gone, brother's gone.
Yep. And so now it's just him and mommy. Everything's good. He can't
creepy.
wait. Yeah. It's you're probably going to hear a lot of these mommy tales and a lot of these crimes and stuff. But
Well, and I am the mother of a son, and I just adore my kids so much. And I'll say like, oh my gosh, and when you go to college, I'm going to be so sad, and blah blah blah. I'm like, and Cameron will joke and say, well, I'll just stay here forever. I'm like, no, no, then I will have failed as a parent. Like, I want you to go. Leave the nest, spread your wings, go live your life.
Right.
As much as I'm going to miss you, I want that for you.
similarly, my mom didn't like that you were taking her baby away from her. When,
I was like, what the fuck is this?
yeah. So again, my mom's pretty much Augusta in this scenario. Sorry,
I
Mom.
thought I was Augusta.
Oh yeah.
And on the side note, I absolutely adore Mike's mom.
Yes, you do.
So we're good there, and this is all in good fun.
Yeah. So we'll probably bring this up when she comes.
Mike's
into town.
mom is not an evil person.
Well, we'll be like, hey, Ma, so I was researching this killer, and Allison thinks you're kind of like the mom that caused him to kill all these people. She'll enjoy that.
Anyway, what's for dinner?
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, he loved that his dad and brother were out of the picture. But unfortunately for Ed, Augusta ended up having a stroke. So he actually did nurse her back for a while. He would there were stories where he would lay in bed and rub her hair and stuff like that with her, and he just loved her.
I wonder if anything inappropriate. Obviously that's probably a little on the creepy side of things, but I wonder if anything sexually inappropriate happened.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. No reports that I saw. I didn't specifically look for that, but probably didn't want to hear about it either.
Because Ed has never had a lady friend in his life.
Not that
One would assume Ed was a virgin.
right. I would
Okay.
assume that'd be a safe assumption. I would say.
A lady or a man friend. You
Right.
know, we don't know.
Yeah, different. Hey, who knows? So he nursed her back to health. She was getting better and better, but then she had a final and fatal stroke on December 29th, 1945, and 39-year-old Ed was devastated.
I bet.
Yep. Let's see. So yeah, like I said, he was stuck at a teenage adolescent maturity level. So after his brother's death and then his mother's a few years later, for the next 12 years, he got obsessed with recreating the world that he shared with his mom. So he kind of wanted to go back, just me and mom. That's just what I want. He's just completely obsessed. He was remodeling the house that they lived in just so it could be just like when him and his mom lived there. He renovated the house, but instead of turning it into a more useful home for himself, he boarded up every room that had been used by his mother and instead moved into a single bedroom right off the kitchen. So wanted to keep that section that his mom touched completely perfect, and his little hovel was just a complete shithole.
Oh,
So, you can see pictures online, just it looks like a hoarder, the same thing. Anything you would picture of hoarding, that's what
Yeah.
his room looked like. Really disgusting stuff. Just didn't keep things up, and
and Mike knows I'm a person that just hates stuff. If it's in my house, it has to have a use. Otherwise, I want it gone.
Yep.
Because I can't stand stuff just laying around that I have no use for.
Now the place he boarded up, you'd love that, but all the other that area he stayed in, he needed just a tiny little bit of room.
Yeah, I guess a single person. I don't know how big the house was initially, but
A few rooms.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now he's got his kitchen and then a room is basically his home now.
Right. Correct.
Is the farm functioning any longer, I wonder?
I don't know.
Because you got to wonder how he's making money. Maybe the house was already paid for. Who knows?
I'm sure they probably built it themselves.
Yeah.
And probably not a lot of bills back in those days.
Right.
You go to the local store, sell a couple soybeans, and you're good to go for a couple weeks.
Ed sounds like a simple man.
Right.
Didn't need much
Right.
stuff.
Yep.
He wasn't on Amazon too much shopping.
Well, he did buy some things to keep him interested.
Okay.
While living by himself, he became interested in death cult magazines, pornography,
Okay. So
obviously.
Ed did have some sexual interest.
Yep. Nazi cannibal adventure stories.
Wow. That's very specific.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. Like, I was reading this blog. That quote directly comes from this one blog I was looking at. And I was like, what the hell is a Nazi cannibal adventure story?
I don't know, but obviously it involved Nazis and cannibalism and adventures.
And then another story I heard, they referred to this author or artist or whatever, Ilse Koch or Cook, Koch, Ilse, Ilse. So this Ilse used to collect patches of skin from people involved in the Holocaust.
Oh.
Like, just absolutely disgusting.
Okay.
In my opinion, I don't get it, but this was something he was like infatuated with this person and collecting little pieces of skin, and just like thought that was fascinating, like interesting, and spent a lot of time thinking about that. So you kind of see where we're going here.
Yes.
So then we get to November 16th, 1957. Ed is about 51 years old. So, just living his solitary life by himself, once in a while saying hi to neighbors, and finally 51 years old.
I bet you his house was not very fresh smelling.
No, probably smelled like absolute like cow shit and other things, as you're going to learn about here shortly.
Yeah, I don't think he cleaned much either, I would guess.
Nope. So this was the first day of deer hunting season.
Okay.
In Plainfield, Wisconsin. So pretty much every male in Plainfield was gone. Just because it's, small town and lots of hunting, and up north in Wisconsin, big deer out there to go bag yourself a buck.
And then they've got their meat for the winter.
Yeah, exactly. That was also the day that a local hardware store owner disappeared. Her name was Bernice Warden. So Ed was kind of infatuated with Bernice. He really, not sexually, just liked to, maybe he viewed her as like another mother figure for him. He would always come over, and she ran the local store, and talk to her all the time. She kind of got annoyed by him a little bit, kind of just like a little bit too much.
Came around too often.
Yeah. But he absolutely was infatuated with her. So she ended up missing. She was last seen the previous night and had been reported missing after her hardware store remained closed all day long. Her son Frank, who was also the deputy sheriff, went into the store after hours and hours of being gone hunting, because all the males were.
Right.
And found the cash register open with blood stains on the floor.
Oh, never a good sign.
No. So,
plus, she was probably one of those people that like was never late in opening her store, and then it's not open, and it's like, oh, what the hell? Where is she?
Right. In small town, you come on over, it's like, hey, where's she at? Where's Bernice? Is she doing, sleeping or something like that? Yeah, it's just people know each other. So while interviewing Frank, the son, investigators found out that GEEN had been in the store the previous night and had told Bernice Warden that he was going to come back in the morning for a half gallon of antifreeze. So sure enough, they found out, they looked through receipts, the last sale made at the store that was a gallon of antifreeze. So what happened was Ed Gein came in during broad daylight, and just nobody was there. Pretty much like they interviewed some of the people. They said, what happens on the first day of hunting season? They're like, it's like a ghost town here.
Okay, so he knew that then. I wonder if he planned, okay, the town's going to be empty. This would be a good time.
Yep. So he just strolls into the store, nobody's around anywhere.
And I'm sure back then it was kind of sexist, where there weren't very many women heading into the hardware store because they left that to the men.
Right.
Whereas I frequently go to Lowe's or whatever for whatnots. I bet you back then it was predominantly the males. So the place was probably quiet as could be.
Yep. So he strolled in, bought a gallon of antifreeze, and then brought that out to his car, came back in, asked Bernice for... he actually wanted to take a look at a rifle that was sitting out in the front window. So as she turned around to get into the rifle, he shot her in the back of the head and then loaded her corpse into the car.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret. With Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Something to do to somebody that you admire and are infatuated with, eh?
Yeah. And just so shot her in the middle of the day and nobody heard it. And that's another incredible part. I guess there's really no like downtown. I guess that was the downtown area.
Right. And, I'm sure he scoped it out and saw there really weren't many passerbys. So he felt comfortable just doing such a thing in the middle of the day.
And on the first day of hunting season, hearing a gunshot probably isn't the craziest
True.
thing. Yeah. So immediately, investigators headed to Ed Gein's home after the son found all this information,
the receipts and whatnot.
Yep. So they ended up finding a receipt for the antifreeze at his house, and they began searching his property. So now they definitely knew they'd probably find Bernice's body somewhere, but they found that and a lot more than they expected. So this is the entire thing that just kind of goes off the rails here. So while searching the house, they found what would later inspire horror movies like Silence of the Lambs and Psycho and all that stuff. There was one point where policemen came into this room and saw something hanging from the rafters, and they just thought, oh, it's a deer strung up or something, from deer hunting season. It ended up being a human body.
Good Lord.
That was gutted from the sternum, down to the hips, and just opened up completely. And, this is a small town police force that isn't used to seeing this.
They're not expecting to walk into this horror show.
Right. Much less a big city police force isn't used to that either. But, I mean, this is especially shocking for them.
And I'm sure nothing really ever happened in this town.
Right. Exactly. So, a couple petty thefts and something here and there. Yeah. Domestic disturbances and such. But just completely, caught them off guard. So, in addition to that, they found tons and tons of bones, both like whole and fragmented, skulls stuck on bedposts, like Lord of the Flies style, just tons of human bones all over the place. Bowls and kitchen utensils made and carved out of bones and skulls. But worse, there was items, like those things made out of bones. There were some stories there that people would come over and maybe have soup with Ed or something, like some neighbors. Ended up that they had soup out of those skull bowls. They found out years later.
It'd be interesting to know what it looked like.
Like a white bowl, like a white porcelain bowl-ish, I guess. And so they had tons of stuff there. Like there were household items made out of human skin.
That I remember.
So they always show the chairs upholstered with the human skin. So, you want to reupholster something, he took somebody's skin and stapled it all over it and made it look... And actually, it looks like... You wouldn't know? I mean...
maybe almost like leather?
Yeah, like it looks like leather.
Oh.
I mean, it is. That's exactly what it is.
Well, that's what cowhide,
Yeah. There was a wastebasket made of skin.
It is interesting, though. Like, obviously, humans and animals are different, but, we carry around leather purses and wear leather shoes and jackets and things like that.
Right. If you think, okay, this person's going in the ground anyway, why shouldn't we use their skin for
I mean, obviously, that's a whole other bag of tricks, but the fact that we, do carry around animal skin on our shoulders, a little strange.
Yeah. Yeah. You make a good point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really own anything leather just because I'm probably cheap, I guess.
Right. Yes. And you're welcome for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike, for turning me into this frugal person.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
but yeah, it is. But human skin is a whole other ball game.
Yeah. Well, he lacked the... Similarly to how we're having this conversation, he probably lacked the wherewithal and be like, it's not the same thing. And so what would stop him? Be like, why can't I just use skin for things? Yeah, it's not like he needed it. Obviously, he had a sickness where he wanted to use skin for these sort of things.
Well, he was fascinated with that Nazi cannibalism story or whatever this Ilsa person was that had the swatches of skin. Obviously, that inspired him to do it himself.
Absolutely. So not only that, he had some leggings made out of human skin, masks made from other people's faces, so he'd fashion them and wear them for himself. There was a belt made of nipples.
That one is the one that I can never get out of my mind. The belt of nipples, and I've seen the picture. Did you see the picture?
Oh, God, no. I thought of looking for it, and I was like, I pictured it in my head. I'm like, why nipples? I guess they're extra tough. So
I mean, I guess, but you need a lot of nipples to make a belt.
Right. Maybe he had time on his hands. Oh, gosh, disgusting. And a pair of lips.
Which I can't even believe I just said that. You need a lot of nipples to make a belt. Like, I'm thinking about it in a normal, logical way.
Like, well, how many nipples would you need for a belt? Probably 60, because then they're going to shrink because they're dried
up.
Yeah.
Good God.
A pair of lips being used as window shade drawstrings. I thought that was like, how many lips do you need for that?
I don't know. I saw. Did you look at all the pictures of these things, though?
I briefly, and then I deleted them all.
You need to.
I did. No, I don't. I'm not. I'm
yeah,
fine.
it's in my head forever.
Yeah, I'm fine not knowing. They were all attached to my little manuscript here, but I deleted them all.
I'm one of those very morbidly fascinated people that have to see the pictures. Mm-hmm. And then once you see it, you wish you hadn't.
Right.
But I never learned my lesson.
See, I stopped in the middle. I said, I don't need to see this, and I'm okay with it.
You're smart, and I'm not.
Nah, you're good. Don't worry. You say that all the time, and you are okay. Just you're
I'm
okay.
good enough. I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me.
I like you. There's a corset made out of female torso, a lampshade made from a human face.
So this is basically how he was spending his evenings.
Right.
Just sitting in this disgusting home, crafting things made out of humans.
Yep. And now, he kind of didn't stop there. Police found other things like dismembered body parts, which he was probably going to fashion into other things, including fingernails, which weird. Fingernails. Oh, I wondered why they talked about that. I pictured clippings, but obviously whole fingernails.
I'm sure it was whole fingernails.
4 noses and the genitals of 9 different women.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing. Obviously had a lot of victims, hence me saying about the whole nipple belt.
Right.
What is an average belt? 29 inches? I mean, that's a thin female.
I was thinking more like 30 or 40 inches. Yeah.
Are more along the lines of a 38-incher, so that,
Thank you.
You'd have to have a lot of victims to craft such a thing.
Yep. He was a little guy, though, so I think he was probably more your size. That's what they say. They did find Bernice Warden's body as well, obviously, decapitated. Her head was hung in a burlap sack, and her heart was hanging in a plastic bag near the stove.
I hope her son wasn't there to find that.
Yeah.
Because you said he was like the police something or other.
Yeah.
And, that's just where you see these people get, like, obviously he's out of control to begin with, but, like, take it to another level to the fact that he took this woman who everyone would notice would be gone and left the blood on the cat. Like, he didn't care that she was going to be found.
I don't think there's a lot of thinking involved besides that I want her my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what he wanted.
Now, are we going to talk about who these other victims were?
Yeah.
Okay.
So police also found the remains of another woman, Mary Hogan, equally dismembered as Bernice. Mary Hogan was a lady who was reported missing several years prior, back in December 8th, 1954, about 3 years earlier.
Did she live in the town?
Yep. So reports said that when Mary Hogan went missing, she was like a bartender somewhere. And Ed would talk with some neighbors about it and stuff. And other people would, just like, the town, she's missing. Nobody knows where she is.
Yeah.
So people would be like, so Ed, how about, missing Mary Hogan? Kind of crazy. And he said, oh, she's not missing. She's up at the house. And people would just be like, oh, that's just Ed being weird.
Yeah.
So she was actually at Ed's house.
That's
cut up and
very disturbing.
Fashioned several things out of it. It's like, looking back, imagine being that neighbor, like, son of a bitch. Like, I could have reported him.
Actually being serious.
Right.
So these decapitated and dismembered parts of the body were just sitting in the home.
Right.
Just stinking up and rotting. And
that's what you're going back to. Like, he smelled all these things and it was okay with him.
Well, I am just so big on smells.
So it was probably in like more of like the, I don't know, like an underground or
that's. I wondered if
an
he
area
had,
where
like,
they'd go to open up carcasses and stuff like that.
Got it.
A butchering area. So,
well, like right now as we podcast, we have a nice fall candle burning. I had opened this like Tupperware of beans yesterday in the fridge that was like a week or two old. So it just like past its prime, which like drives me insane. And it stunk so bad. And I'm like obsessing over the smell of these beans. I'm like, now it's out in the garage and the whole garage is going to stink. And sure enough, the garage stinks.
And our family's coming over that complain about everything you can think about.
So I can't imagine having like these strewn body parts. Throughout the house.
Yeah.
That is fucked.
Yeah. It was definitely disgusting. So, eventually they obviously arrested Ed and, brought him in, booked him. He basically confessed immediately. There was really no, remorse or anything. It was just factual to him more than anything. The first thing he said when they sat him down to interview him, he asked if he could have apple pie with a slice of cheese on top.
Okay.
So this wasn't like, you're dealing with a kid, like even younger than adolescent, 13-year-old. You're basically talking with like a 8 to 10-year-old.
Maybe, but an 8 to 10-year-old would know that killing is bad.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't even see it as a bad thing. It was just like, yep, I did this. Anyway, can I get my pie?
Which obviously his mom didn't do a good enough job teaching immoralities and stuff. So, he would think he would not murder. Thou shalt not murder. It's in the commandments of the Christian. I know she was super Christian. So,
right.
I mean, ultimately, you're not dealing with somebody that's thinking logically. So.
No, and there's a lot of bad things that happen in the church too.
Yeah.
Oh,
of course. Anywhere. He confessed immediately. He told police that he had made at least 40 different visits to 3 local graveyards to exhume human bodies.
Okay, so that's where he was getting a lot.
Yep. So he said he only killed 2 people only.
Henry, no, because he did Mary and Mary Hogan and Bernice.
Right.
So those were the 2. So he never confessed to his brother?
Correct.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, well, I don't know that he didn't, but they said that they just referred to these 2 that he killed. So yeah, I guess not.
Because you would think like, okay, I'm caught.
Yeah.
What harm is it to say, yep, I offed Henry too?
You know what? He may have at some point, but that never came out. That at least that I read. I never looked into that. So if anybody's listening to this and like, yeah, he did come out with his brother. Yeah, maybe he did.
Okay. So I'm sorry I cut you off. So he's going to the graveyard and digging these people up. I'm
Correct.
like getting all sketchy and weird. We have a Bears flag out front and the shadow just came and I like flipped to the side like, oh,
It's somebody's.
Ed's here.
Yeah, Ed's family is looking for us. He confessed to going to the graveyard. So the police thought that was kind of weird. They're like, that's a lot of freaking work to go dig up freaking bodies and take them out and whatever. He's like, you're talking about 6 feet of packed soil.
Right. And you'd have to have it done in one night because then the morning comes around and people are there.
Right. Correct. So they're like, were like, no, he definitely killed these people. And actually people in Plainfield, they were like, no, this guy killed way more people. Like they were freaked out that he basically butchered 12 people, serial killer style. And so police went to the graveyard and looked at all the places that he said that, he killed people. And sure enough, they dug down to the coffin, found that it was busted into.
Wow.
Bodies exhumed, body parts and things just taken out of them and then put back in the dirt, put back in place.
I'm so confused. So he would go to the graveyard at night. I would assume he'd want someone kind of fresh. I know that sounds creepy, but he probably knew, so-and-so passed away. They had the funeral. They're buried. Maybe he wanted that quickly. So he'd go like that night. So he wouldn't take the whole body. Obviously, that's a heavy person.
Right.
So he would like take a knife and like cut them up in the caskets.
Yeah.
Good God.
Probably taking hands and fingernails and noses. Like, that's why they found those different things.
Oh my God. I just like picture this happening in my head, like at night, this like crazed man, like in a coffin, like cutting off a hand.
Yep. And you make a good point. So it probably made it a little easier to dig down if it was fresh.
Yeah, true. Because it hadn't had time to settle and pack.
Right.
Because imagine like if years go by and winters happen and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, then you're dealing with like a decaying corpse that's probably like loaded with bugs and whatnot. He probably didn't want to deal with that, one would think.
Right.
I know I'm thinking into this a lot, but
no, you're right.
I'm assuming he probably wanted a fresh body.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was true then. So he had actually gone into these caskets and grave sites and whatever.
Yep. And so, I did mention serial killer, and some people say that he doesn't really fit the definition of a serial killer.
What is the definition?
I don't know. That's a good question. Probably should have looked that up before coming on. Let me.
Let's pause and we'll check back.
Yeah, I'll be right back in a second here. And just like back through the magic of the internet, I'm back. So it says serial killer, a person who commits a series of murders, often with no apparent motive and typically following a characteristic predictive behavioral pattern. So I guess several of these things, a person who commits a series of murders, he had 2 murders that obviously, and his brother, but they said it was all kind of one shy of a serial murder or serial killer type of thing.
Well, his motive would have been getting their skin and body parts and whatever to make these morbid crafts he made.
Yeah. And, I think I talk about it. Yeah. And I talk about the motives here. So there's definitely some motive involved. And then involving a characteristic, predictable behavioral pattern. Nothing predictable. I mean, he didn't like sit there for weeks and months. Maybe he did for Bernice, but then the one before that, it sounds like that was kind of just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Spastic, and I think obviously just kind of insane.
I think, though, a lot of serial killers fall within that spastic thing.
Yeah.
Because they can go weeks without doing anything, and then in one night they could go on a rampage,
But were they planning those things all along? No, not necessarily.
Yeah, not necessarily.
So, I guess it depends.
What's interesting, too, is, he had hunting season available to him. He could have made these, like, morbid, chair coverings or whatever out of, like, deer skin, but he wanted to use humans.
I'll tell you why here. So, in addition to talking about his methods of killing people, before I get there, so he told police he had made 40 different visits to the 3 local graveyards to exhume human bodies. He claimed he had done so in a dazed-like state. So he felt like he just kind of, maybe that was euphoria inside of him, or just like, how they say fear and excitement is like the same feeling. It's just a matter of how you look at it.
I guess so, yeah.
You ever hear that?
Your body probably just has the same response,
Correct. Yep. So like if you're about to go up in front of and talk in front of a bunch of people, if you're feeling fearful or anxious, and it's really the exact same feeling as excitedness. So you can kind of channel it however you feel you want to. So like personally, I get excited. I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like I'm nervous, but I'm like excited to get in front of people.
Yeah.
Whereas people that have that, horror of getting in front of people are just like, they have the same feeling, but they're choosing, or their body is forcing them to feel, no, bad, get away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So almost like a zombie-like state. He wanted this thing done, because that's a lot of work, to go out and do these things 40 different times.
So let's talk about the motive. So he revealed that soon after his mother's death, he'd begun to create a woman's suit so that he could literally become his mother and crawl.
Hence the psycho part that, what was it, Hitchcock?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So he wanted to make a woman's suit so he can literally become his mother and crawl into her skin.
Good God.
He said he would cover himself with these skins. And then, so, cover, you heard about the leggings. The first time I heard about leggings made out of skin, I'm like, what the hell is he doing with leggings? He would put on these leggings, put on the gloves made by, human skin, put on the coat made out of a woman, and then the mask and everything. And he'd prance around in his yard, and, kind of channel his mother and think that he was his mother.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine like seeing the sight?
No.
And what could have been going on in his head?
So I picture like clotheslines and stuff, and him just like jumping around in his backyard and with like skin on himself.
Now, would he be doing this at nighttime? Like, I'm sure his nearest neighbor wasn't very close if he had a farm.
No, it was miles and miles
yeah,
away. Doesn't
whereas
matter.
obviously for us, our neighbors are a hop, skip, and a jump away. They'd see us prancing with human skin on our bodies.
Yeah. Well, they might think it's leather. And then,
And that would be also kind of creepy.
It would. Any kind of prancing.
You look out the window, oh, Bob's got his leather face on again.
Yeah, it's just jumping around. Crazy old Bob. They also noticed that obviously he targeted women every time anything happens. All these corpses and stuff were all women. So.
Okay, so he specifically knew to go for women, and I guess the fascination with his mother and the female and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Didn't care for his dad, probably didn't care for his brother, hence killing him.
Yep. He was all about channeling his mom and getting back to mommy. There were parts, obviously, of tons of different bodies found in his home at this time, but GEEN was accused of only one count of murder for Bernice Warden.
And not the other lady?
Nope, not at that time. So maybe eventually, that probably got him too. Obviously, well, he confessed to it, so.
He confessed to it, and I'm sure they had her body parts there.
Yeah, they did. She was butchered just like Bernice.
Jesus.
So he pled not guilty by reason of insanity, and he was declared unfit to stand trial. He was sent to the hospital for criminally insane, where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Oh, wow.
Big surprise.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
He was retried once after doctors believed he would participate in a trial, but was again declared mentally insane. He was confined to spent the rest of his life in a mental hospital and died as one of history's most disturbing serial killers, this one says, at Mendota Mental Health Institute at the age of 77 on July 26, 1984.
Wow.
He died from respiratory failure, complications from cancer.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. So you'll be glad to know that he was buried next to his mother in the same cemetery where he committed a lot of these crimes.
Man alive.
So like that, I guess, who's has any say as to where somebody gets buried. It kind of sucks that as a family member of these people that were just like, chopped up and stuff like that, the guy that did all this is laying in the same cemetery. So you go to visit your loved one and the killer of them is near, well, not the killer, but a guy who came and like played with their bodies.
Well, completely disrespected them. Can you imagine knowing that your person was like dug up in the middle of the night and hacked at?
Yep. And the guy who did it is laying right there.
But I guess you have to just remember that he was mentally insane.
Right. So, yeah, he was right next to his mom, between his mom and dad, back to where he started. And so there was a lot of stuff that kind of went on after he was dead. This was one of the first like cases where the kind of murder culture came in and like really wanted to know more about it. And kind of there was people coming to look at the house itself and people coming to look at his grave site. So they would chip off little pieces of the gravestone and then sell it to people and be like, this is Ed Gein's gravestone, and sell them for a few bucks here and there. So they had to keep on like fixing it all the time because it keeps on getting desecrated and whatever. But eventually they just made it unmarked. Just so you would go there now and you wouldn't even know
Got
who
it.
it was.
And this is in Plainfield, Wisconsin.
Yep.
That he's buried. Mm-hmm. And then I wonder what they did to the house. I like tear it down.
Interesting that you should say that. So for a while, like I said, where the house where he lived his whole life, most of his life, it was turned into kind of a tourist attraction.
Weird.
Well, they didn't like start selling tickets or anything, but people would drive from outside and come and take a look, peek in there, look, because it was pristine. The areas that he left untouched, you can look in the window and see exactly how it was when his mom died. So kind of fascinating and morbid and disgusting.
Sure. People are fascinated by stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy as this.
Yep. So it was eventually going to be turned into like a museum or something like that, like air quotes museum, because it's kind of a disgusting thing to think about, but whatever you would call that, where people could come and look and see what it was like.
But obviously all the body part things were removed from the home.
Yeah, I would think so. I would still look disgusting, but maybe you might think, oh, there's a piece of an ear or something. But I'm sure it was a lot of things were moved away. But just before it was due to be put up for auction, it was burned to the ground. Yeah.
By whom?
Well, people are like, well, it was probably arson. Somebody came in.
Of course it was. That didn't spontaneously combust.
Right. And obviously, the local authorities come in and they're like, don't worry. It wasn't just...
We're not going to go ahead and do this.
Don't research how this happened. Just put it away, put it in the file.
I'll handle it.
Yes.
I'll handle it.
So they still do have people coming to the site of the house, but nothing's really there.
Right.
The townspeople wanted to make sure it was kind of gone. Like, you can look up this like YouTube videos and this old guy that's like, yeah, it's Plainfield's a nice town. It's a shame we've got a lot of like doctors and lawyers and very successful people coming out of this town, and one bad person, and that's what we're known for. Right. That's unfortunately what it is. But
so the site of the house is just sitting there, kind of empty right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to build anything there.
Me neither. So
creepy
that's
as shit.
Yeah, that's the story of Ed Gein, a very, very well-known portion here. The inspiration to Silence of the Lambs and Psycho and a number of others out there.
So creepy.
Yeah, so wearing skin. Buffalo Bill, that's the guy that's like, it puts the lotion on the skin or
it gets the hose again.
Yeah.
Put the fucking lotion in the basket.
Right. He wanted to keep the people's skin very moist.
Yeah.
Ugh, so that sucked, but hey... it's one to know about for sure. Yeah,
you did a good job.
Oh, thanks, Beb. So, hey, thanks for listening. We really appreciate you. This is the Crime and Coffee Podcast. Tell your friends. And we're officially releasing this week, so should be exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go from here. And I think you're up next week.
I am.
Looking forward to hearing you.
Yeah.
All right.
I really enjoyed just kicking back and drinking my coffee, but I'll be ready for next week.
Good luck.
All right.
Can't wait.
We'll see you then.
All right.
Bye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.